the Detroit River and Lake Erie.
Good evening, everybody. This is the July 12th meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Public Service Commission. Welcome to everybody, and I call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to call the roll. Costick, I'm here. Kennedy?
Here.
Schmidtke?
Present.
Nadeau? Here. Three of our members, Linda Stanko, John Reilly, and Lara Zawaideh, are excused from tonight's meeting. But we do have a quorum. So with that, I'd like to recommend approval of the agenda. I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda. Is there support? One thing I'd like to do on the agenda tonight is, if somebody shows up for public comment, that would be fine. Nobody's here in the audience for that at this time. But I'd like to have a very brief run-through of three different proposals. And we have, what this commission has been dealing with, and we have coming up at the August 2nd primary, we have a wastewater treatment plant proposal. I'd like to outline that briefly. Phil Kennedy is going to outline our road millage request proposal to be on the November 8th ballot. And Derek Thiel, our manager, is going to highlight how we propose to finance these issues, or at least a summary of those. So can we add that at the public comment? The reason I wanted to do it early, in case anybody starts to watch our meeting and gets bored, at least we might catch them in the beginning of the meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
So that's my proposal. So I'll make a motion to amend our agenda under public comment to add those three brief presentations. We also have a little video that our staff has produced on the wastewater treatment plant. So we'll be looking at that for the first time, hopefully to explain that a little better. Is everybody all right with the amendment? No opposition? Then, as far as the agenda then, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
The agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes of our June meeting. And I would just call your attention one item, and I already spoke to the manager about this on page 4. Was I correct? It doesn't, our vote isn't recorded?
Right yet. Sorry. Yes,
you and I had talked about this the other day. I've already changed it in the minutes on the computer that'll be uploaded. And a matter of fact, I think there were two actually two items there. There were two separate motions that were listed in the minutes. The second one can be eliminated. The first one can take the vote. So, yeah, I think we can eliminate the bold print on page 3 about halfway down and just go with the first motion that was at the top.
So what it needs to just be amended to add is all yeas, motion carried. Where the italicized a reiteration of the motion is regarding water sewer rate increases. Okay? So the only words would be is all yeas, motion carried, because it was unanimous. Are there any other comments on the minutes? It's our June meeting. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes of our June 14th meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposition, minutes are approved. Next on our agenda is the approval of our vouchers. And they are displayed beginning on page 13. Everybody's had a chance to look at the vouchers, I think. And there's several pages of vouchers here, all related to our water, sewer, and refuse operations. Any questions on the vouchers? I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers that are before us tonight.
Support.
Moved, supported. Again, are there any questions? If not, all in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
No opposition. As far as the statement of revenues and expenditures are concerned for our water, sewer, and refuse funds, you've all had a chance to look at those. This is really the first quarter report. We're in the first quarter through April, May, and June of our water, sewer, and refuse operations. If there aren't any questions, we'll just receive and file this report. Are there any questions? We'll receive and file this report. Next is our treasurer's report. Treasurer's report for the month of June. We have our treasurer on our commission. We're lucky to have that, but it's a standard report we look at every month. Basically, our water, sewer, and refuse funds, as well as our drain fund and our road improvement fund. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as submitted. Is there support?
Support.
Been moved and supported. If there are no questions, are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Treasurer's report. Next is opportunity for public comment, and there is no public in the audience, so we're going to proceed as we amended the agenda. The first item we're going to briefly discuss is a wastewater treatment plant. And I'm going to hold this up, and I'm sure nobody can read it, but this is a mailer that every resident should receive this week in the mail. It's a 4-page mailer that explains what's being proposed at our wastewater treatment plant. I also want to mention that we're going to have a special public hearing next Wednesday night, the 20th of July, to answer any questions, field any questions on our wastewater treatment plant. So all the public's invited, and this report on the 4th page does indicate and invites residents that are interested in learning more about what we're proposing to do at the wastewater plant, July 20th at 7 p.m. in this room. July 20th? Oh, yes, you're right, Dave. We're going to have the meeting earlier. It's at 6 o'clock in the evening, not 7. 6 o'clock in the evening, July 20th. So basically what's going on at our wastewater treatment plant, the township has been confronted with mandates from the state of Michigan for several years now. And the prior township board and this township board and Derek Thiel, our manager, have negotiated over the years, the last 2.5 years extensively, to get the state of Michigan to allow us to put the date off for completion of this project. The completion date has been extended by 3 years to October 31st, 2025. And the reason that was done, and Darrell will explain more, has to do with the financing. We have a bunch of debt that accumulated in the year 2000, 2001, equivalent to 4.5 mil levy, property taxes that you pay. So the improvements that are required were put off so that we could start to retire that debt. So the fiscal implication to every one of us, property taxpayers, would be minimized. What we have to do, this mandate, we have to add an additional 60-foot diameter final clarifier. If you ever go to the plant, there are huge structures outside the wastewater plant building, in the rear of the building. They're 60-foot diameter concrete structures. So these are called the final clarifiers. And what this will allow us to do is increase our capacity for holding water and treatment during wet weather conditions. Problem we have is when we get a serious storm, the plant gets overloaded. And we want to avoid any discharges, illegal discharges into the Trenton Channel. So that's the biggest and most expensive item, this huge concrete structure. Second is the installation of new higher capacity intermediate pumps at the plant. These huge pumps are 46 years old. And I think the estimated cost for those plants is around $1.2 million for both of them. So that's an expensive. The clarifier I just mentioned is close to $5 million. Additions and modifications to the existing sludge pumps and the chlorine contact equipment to handle the higher flows. Reconfiguration of our treatment plant air circulation system inside the plant. When you have an operating plant like a water plant or a wastewater plant, you have a very high corrosive atmosphere. It's always wet inside. High humidity, let's just say. The dew point is excessive. Plus, there are corrosive gases in the treatment process. So, state is requiring us to update and provide a brand new air circulation system. Now, a couple of years ago, the 40 or 50-year-old boiler was put out of service because that process was to be improved upon. And we put a temporary system in for the lab at the plant and for the area where most people work. Anyway, so this is a new HVA system and air circulation system, which is a huge improvement, and it's required by the state of Michigan. The installation of new effluent meter and chamber, and finally the rehabilitation of several sanitary sewer manholes in and near the area of the plant, sewer lines, and miscellaneous site and plant facilities. Altogether, these costs are approximately a $10 million estimated cost. I'm going to let Derek explain the financial impact. Do you want to do it now or later?
No, I can do it now. That's fine. Probably best to send it over. As the chairman had mentioned earlier, we had a significant amount of work that was performed on our wastewater treatment plant and also primarily our sewer system, the piping network under the ground, quite a few years ago. During that time period, there were a number of bonds that were taken out to be able to help finance that work. We've tried to keep in mind the overall millage levy that our residents experienced when we designed this project and planned the financing of this project. Currently, the township has right around 4.5 mils on the residents' tax bills, and that's associated with that work that we had performed a number of years ago that I just referenced. Those dollars or those mils start dropping off in 2023, 2024, and 2025, and significantly in 2025 and 2026, moving forward to a complete expiration in 2028. So when the DPS Commission reviewed how best to finance this additional work over the wastewater treatment plant, they racked their brains as how to bring on these new costs while not increasing the overall millage total for sewer work that we already have on the books. So what we did is we actually were able through creative financing to delay the levy until 2025 when the current millages start dropping off significantly. And you'll see in 2025 the old work drops down to 2.4 mils, and that's when we'll levy the new at 0.95, resulting in actually a less millage, a lesser amount of millage levied for sewer work from what are experienced currently and had been experienced for quite a period of time. So in the whole reason why we need to go out in 2022 for the millage is because the work that is being required of us, the state of Michigan work that's being required of us, that has to be complete by 2025. That work takes probably close to about 2 years to complete. So in order to hit that timeline or make that completion date in 2025, we actually have to start the work in 2023. Because we're taking out a loan for that work, we're taking out a bond for that work, we have to show to the bonding agencies, the bank essentially, that we have the necessary revenue coming in to be able to support that loan payment. No different if you go to purchase a car and you want to get a loan, they're going to look at how you're going to pay it back. So we are asking for the millage in 2022 so we can qualify and obtain the loan to do the work in 2023 when the work has to be started to achieve that completion date in 2025. So that's why we need to ask for the millage in 2022 to get it passed, hopefully, so that we can have the assurances that we can make those payments on that loan, and that the loan bank basically will provide us that revenue to be able to do that work. It is our plan to finance or pay the finance charges in 2023 and 2024 with money that we have in the bank, okay? So those loan payments in 2023 and 2024 for the money that we need to start the project in 2023, we're going to pay cash for. So what that allows us to do is to wait on the levy until 2025 for actually using the millage to make those payments. So hopefully that is fairly clear to the residents. I know it's a bit complicated, but all of that planning is intended to try to maintain as low of a levy on the millages associated with sewer work as possible. And I think we're achieving that as the chart shows. We're actually going to have a less of a millage levy than what residents had been experiencing once we actually levy that millage. So are there any questions regarding that?
Not from this table.
Okay. So once again, we have to ask for it to be passed in 22 so that we have the assurances to get the loan in 23, that the revenue is able to be coming in to make those payments for that bond in 23 and 24 and 25 and moving out into the future. So I just wanted to be clear about that for the residents, because we have been receiving a couple of questions as to why we're going out in 22 but not levying until 25. That's the reason why.
And you had mentioned as the meeting was starting that there was a citizen who had called and made an inquiry. Did you just answer that question?
Yes, I did. Yep, and I've spoken with that resident earlier today, and they made a very good point, and that's why I'm addressing it this evening, to make sure that the residents understand, why we're doing that. I'm sure if one person has that question, a number of residents have that same question. So that's the answer to that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So again, on the wastewater treatment plant proposal that you will have an opportunity to vote on, it's on the August 2nd primary ballot. And we are going to have a public meeting on this matter, a public hearing on July 20th at 6 p.m. in this chamber. This commission is going to do that. All the public's invited to come and ask questions. It's an open forum. We will try to answer anything you may have. For those of you who don't know, and it's amazing, some people don't know, when you come over the bridge, the county bridge, the free bridge, if you look off to the left as you arrive on the island, that's where our wastewater treatment plant is, just to the north side of the canal. that outlets in the Trenton Channel there. The plant is very old. It was first built in the early 70s. And we took it over some years ago many years ago, prior to any of our time involved here, from the county. It was built by Wayne County originally. And each year, it requires a lot of maintenance. We spend anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 a year on replacing pumps and other parts and things that have to be fixed. But these are major improvements we're talking about here. Very important, and again, it's mandated by the state of Michigan. So one way or another, we're going to have to deal with this issue. So that's that issue. Next, we're going to briefly outline the road proposal. And Phil, our Vice Chair, Phil, would you please give an outline of that?
Good evening to anybody that's listening. As everybody's aware, the roads on Grosse Ile are in deteriorating shape. They have been for a number of years. A little bit of history. In 2015 and 2018, we went to the voters with a millage request to improve the roads. We had a plan in place for both of those ballot proposals, and both of them failed. They failed by around 300 votes each, and as such, our roads have been somewhat deteriorating since. And so this year, on the November 8th general election, we have a millage proposal, again, to address repairing and upgrading our roads, and that amount will be 1.4 mills for a 15-year duration, and it's scheduled to be levied with the winter tax statement of 2022. What we have proposed is a 2-year major improvement of several of the main roads, and then follow on continuing improvement and maintenance of secondary roads. We plan to bond a certain amount of money, approximately $6.8 million, that would give us the seed money to do the major improvements in 2023 and 2024, and will also allow monies in addition to the millage levy, will allow us monies in addition to the bond repayment to add to our already existing road improvement fund to do ongoing maintenance and continuing improvement of the Grosse Ile roads. The major question that we keep hearing is, why is Wayne County not taking care of these roads? It needs to be stressed, these roads do belong to Wayne County. They're Wayne County roads, and yet we seem to always be lagging behind in getting Wayne County to take care of the major roads on Grosse Ile. You need to rest assured that this commission has done everything possible to get Wayne County's involvement in any road projects that we've undertaken, and we've had very limited success. We've had some success, not just hasn't been totally ignored. We've had some success. They partnered with us to do the southern part of West River Road. When we did the water main project there a year or two ago, they improved a section of East River Road. They did a section, they did Macomb, they did the lower West River Road at one time. They have participated on a limited basis, although we never do reach the requirement to be on their needs list of 100 roads that they're going to do each year. We sometimes we're way down at the bottom of the list, other times we're not even on the list. One bright spot that we can look forward to is we've had tentative commitment from Wayne County that they are going to undertake the improvement over a 3-year period of redoing Meridian Road. So that's the reason Meridian isn't on our list to improve. So we've had limited success, but we keep hoping for money to fall out of the sky. We keep hoping for the infrastructure program to start generating money. We've been looking for funding every year, but it never seems to materialize other than just bits and pieces of Wayne County's participation. So that's the request that we're asking. Again, it's going to be a 1.4 mils for 15 years, and it's going to be on the November 8th ballot. And we also are going to have public hearings in this building, in this room, on 2 occasions specifically to address the roads. And they will be on the 13th of September, which is a Tuesday, and the 11th of October, which is also a Tuesday at 7 p.m. in this room. And as always, if anybody has specific questions prior to these meetings, they're certainly welcome to submit them, and we will definitely respond in advance of those meetings should people have specific questions. And also, we're also mailing out our Fixing the Roads brochure, which will be in the mail. Is it coming out this week also?
No, it's going to come
later on.
It's going to be probably the end of August, near the November election.
Okay, so we're going to have this brochure in the mail to you also later on, closer to the election time. And I will also ask Derek again to come to the podium and maybe address the financing of it. In that brochure is the combined financial impact of both the sewer, fire department millage and this proposed millage, and he can explain the impact it might have on your taxes going forward.
Just like the sewer millage, anytime DPS goes to the voters to ask for additional funding for projects, we're always thinking about how that request impacts the overall millage levy within the township. So the DPS commission reviewed that when it developed the proposal. That's why you see 1.4 mils. You also see some of the timing associated with when it's going to be levied. Unfortunately, with the roads millage, we're not able to delay the millage like we are with the sewer treatment plant request. But what we've been able to do is tie the majority of those millage amounts to, once again, that timeline when we're having those sewer millages drop off, which releases or provides quite a bit of a relief to the residents as far as their overall millage levy. So what this chart basically shows you is residents are right at about 14.8 or 14.9 mils, and that's what you see in 2022. With the requested fire operations millage that the residents are going to be seeing in November, as well as with the roads request, should both of those millages be passed, it results in a fairly minimal increase in the overall millage total, right around a 1 mil or a little plus, a little bit more than that. And because we're not levying the sewer millage if it passes until 2025, you don't have that burden seen in 2023 and 2024. Ultimately, when we do get to when that sewer millage is passed in 2025, you actually have a reduction in your overall taxes moving forward into years 2026, 2027, 28, 29, 30, and for the foreseeable future, assuming there aren't any other millage requests that are placed before the electorate and passed. So we tried to minimize it. We tried to end up resulting in actually a lower millage rate than what we had previous eventually. And that's what you see in years 2026 and moving forward. We're down below, almost a mil below where we were in 2021, 2022. So I think what this should show you, and what I think you should probably take away from this chart, is we're able to obtain a significant amount of improvements for the island residents with the 3 millage requests that are being put forth in August and also in November for a very, very minimal increase in cost. And eventually, assuming there aren't any other millages that are requested, an actual overall reduction eventually across the life of these millages. So I don't know if you want to add anything other than that, but I think the chart is pretty self-explanatory as it relates to how all these millage requests factor into the overall levy within the township.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Derek. I know it's a bit of a complicated issue, the financing, but Our goal has been to try to minimize the impact of what we believe we need to keep the quality of life in the community. I just have a couple of comments on roads. A lot of residents have said to me, the county owns the roads, we pay property taxes, why aren't the roads being fixed? Well, the only money that Wayne County spends on roads, and this includes expressways, roads in Livonia, Grosse Pointe, Plymouth, Northville, Brownstown, whatever, the only money that they spend is money they receive from the state of Michigan, gas and weight tax money, and gasoline taxes that we pay, and then the vehicle registration fees. That's the only money that they spend. And so they don't spend any property taxes on roads. That's one question. And this commission, as we looked at this over the last year and a half or so, we've concluded that with the county just spending $15 million on the county bridge, the free bridge, and if they do it come through and over the next 3 years, starting in 2023, do a mile of meridian each year, if that happens, we believe we can't expect them to put anything into any other roads. Now, I will tell you that the Meridian Road Bridge over the canal, which is near Gray's Drive, which goes to the high school, between Gray's and Ferries, this year they're supposed to start to reconstruct and repair that bridge. I can also tell you that the Ferry Road Bridge, particularly the east end of that bridge, needs a new abutment, and that might be scheduled for a couple of years from now. But we really don't see other roads getting fixed unless we do it. And what's happening, and Phil's talked about this many times, is when we went to the voters in 2015 and 2018, and we lost the requests, understandably, people feel they're being taxed, but the roads have deteriorated now, even worse, and the costs are going up to fix them. So these are things we're going to discuss at every one of our meetings before November. And this commission does meet the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock. So those other hearings that Phil mentioned in September and October, we're going to devote time to discuss the road issue. But anytime anybody wants to come to one of our meetings, we're certainly happy to see you. We'd be glad to talk about roads as long as you want to. It's a concern for the quality of life in this community. So thank you, Phil. And that's our presentation. Derek, do you have anything else?
Just other than the video, I don't know if you want to.
Oh, we'd like to see the video, yeah.
Yeah. So
Anybody else? Dave, do you have anything to say on the roads?
No.
Les? Okay, thank you. We have a video that hopefully it's the first time anybody's, at least besides our township manager, has seen it about our wastewater plant. So looking forward to this premiere showing here.
yeah, you'll see some familiar faces on this. So hopefully the audio works.
Welcome. We're at the site of Grosse Hill Township's wastewater treatment plant. We're here to make a public service announcement to inform you, the public, about what's being planned at our plant. My name is Bill Costick. I'm chairman of the DPS Commission, and I'd like to introduce the group.
I'm Jim Budney, your township supervisor.
Hi, I'm David Nadeau, Township Treasurer and Liaison to the DPS Commission.
And I'm Derek Thiel, the DPS Director and Township Manager. As the Chairman had mentioned, we're here to talk to you today about a millage that is going to be on the August 2nd primary election. That millage is intended to address state-mandated improvements at your wastewater treatment plant. We'd like to talk a little bit today about the projects that are proposed with this millage.
As Derek has mentioned, we are mandated by the state of Michigan to make certain improvements and expand the treatment capability at our wastewater treatment plant. These improvements that are necessary will allow us to conform to the state of Michigan regulations.
The regulations that mandate these improvements are intended to minimize the risk of discharge of partially treated sanitary sewer flows during heavy rain events. These discharges occur directly into the Detroit River and Lake Erie and impact the bodies of water that we all use provide us with clean drinking water, waters that we boat, swim, and recreate in.
The proposed scope of the work includes a few mandates, but primarily the largest expense we're going to incur has to do with adding a third clarifier. And later in this video, you're going to see pictures of the existing 2 clarifiers that we have. Additional work includes numerous improvements to our pumps, pump systems, and piping throughout the plant.
The total cost of required work at the treatment plant is $10 million and will be financed through the voter requested millage that will be on the August 2nd ballot. The total levy will not exceed 0.95 mils and is scheduled for 20 years. The township has put forth a tremendous amount of effort to minimize the impact of the millage request on Roseville residents' tax bills. Currently, Roseville Township has in excess of 4.5 mils that are included in your tax bills. These millages are associated with the sewer-related capital improvements. Through creative financing, the township has been able to delay the levy of the proposed millage until 2025, when reductions in the 4.5 mil levy are reduced significantly and that will eventually be eliminated. In summary, the proposed 0.95 mils will not contribute to an increase in your tax bill associated with sanitary water improvements.
I want the residents to know that the township does not take the request for millages from the voters lightly and has structured the request for this millage with tax affordability as its primary goal. The best example of that is the fact that we're asking for this millage today that won't be levied until 2025. With this millage request and the reductions in previous sanitary sewer-related work, decreasing at the time the millage is levied, Roseville Township remains as having one of the lowest overall millage rates in the downriver area. In fact, we are the second lowest rate in the surrounding 7 communities, with the only community having a lower rate being Brownstown Township, which, as you all know, has an abundance of commercial and retail property to help them out. We invite the public to the DPS Special Public Information Meeting on Wednesday, July 20th at 6 p.m. in the Township Board at our Roll Road offices. The meeting will be televised on cable TV, Comcast Channel 12, and WOW Channel 10.
The purpose of that meeting on July 20th is to allow you, the citizens, taxpayers, and residents of Grosse Hill, to come to the meeting, and I hope many will, and we'll answer all questions. We'll explain the proposal in more detail than this announcement provides, but we'll explain things in more detail and allow you as much time as it takes to answer questions. This is an important issue for Grosse Hill, and our DPS Commission takes this matter very seriously. Also, I'd like to say, the DPS Commission meets the second Tuesday of every month. We'll be meeting next week on July 12th, but we're having a special meeting to explain in detail this wastewater treatment plant proposal. You're all welcome, and I hope several of you will attend our July 20th meeting.
In addition to these meetings, the township will be providing to the residents a flyer via U.S. mail that will indicate and show the information about the improvements that we're going to be doing at the plant with these millage funds. So look for that in your mail here shortly. Any additional information that you would like to receive about the proposed millage, you can contact Township Hall at 734-676-4422 extension 228, or you can reach me via email at Derek, DEREKT@roseville.com.
Thank you for listening, and see you on August 2nd.
Did a good job.
We all should get the Grammy and the Oscar awards and all that sort of stuff. All the accolades that come with.
Tom Hanks and Ben Affleck are worried.
Okay, thank you, Phil, and thank you, Derek, and everybody else, Dave, and Les. So we'll move on now, and we're going to get an update at our wastewater treatment plant, our monthly report from our manager, Ryan Walsh. Ryan, is there anything you care to update us on?
Hello, everyone. Sludge hauling went well this year. I wrapped up a couple weeks ago. No issues with that. So, went real well.
Good.
The Drew Karen flex rate screen is now up and running. The rag chute has been repaired and it's working. It's been working for a couple weeks now. No issues.
Good.
And that's what we want. So hopefully that's it. And no more repairs with that. So we're real happy about that. So haven't had a lot of rain lately, so flows have been pretty low at the plant. So that means no SSOs, so that's good. And that. Our operating permit, the NPDES permit, is set to come out November 1st of this year. I've already looked it over, and it's almost the same permit. There is a few new parameters which are on there, but I've already lined that up with our contract lab, and they can run those. So that's
it?
about all I have. Any questions?
Couple of minor items that are coming off of our engineers project report that I'd like to bring up while Ryan's up there in case we
Sure.
want to expound on them.
Yep.
Last night, the board went ahead and approved, contingent upon your action this evening that's coming up, a request to purchase two replacement pumps for both primary and secondary sludge pumps. So if you approve that tonight, those will move forward. Raines is already working on the installation specs, so we're going to bid out the installation of them, but we're going sole source on the actual purchase of the pump. So, and that's not dissimilar to the way that we dealt with the primary clarifier equipment and installation. We purchased the equipment direct from the vendor, and we're bidding out the installation. So we're having, for the most part, two concurrent bidding processes for the installation of two distinctly different pieces of equipment. So just wanted to bring that up. And Ryan, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not, but.
Well, we're just replacing original equipment. It is working, but it doesn't have a lot of life left. So that's why we're replacing it, and it's also on our asset management plan. And this is important equipment for the sludge removal. So it's important. And, yep.
And then we did have our annual inspection at the plant. We did get a notice of some items that needed to be taken care of. That's why you see on Raines's report, between Ryan and Raines, they crafted the township's response to Eagle for the various items that they cited us for, not cited us for, but noted in the inspection report. Just for reference, there are about 9 items that they listed as things that we needed to look into. Based upon my count, about 5 or 6 of those are ACO related. So basically the millage we talked about earlier, that really shows that it's important because not only are we required to do the improvements in our violation notices or our inspection reports, they're saying that there's outstanding issues that need to be resolved, and those issues, at least 6 of the 9, will be handled through the work that that bond would provide us the funding to be able to address. Of the remaining 9 items, 3 of them were, I think, debatable, and Raines was crafting up explanations for, why things were the way that they were. For example, one of the items was the Duperon flex rake system. They had stated it was inoperable or not currently operating. That flex rake system has never not operated. It was always the discharge chute was the part that wasn't functioning. So, and that was in the process of being fixed actually when the inspection took place. So, we're required to respond to the state by October, I believe. And we've already
responded actually.
Right.
C. Raines already submitted our responses onto Eagle already, I believe a week ago. So we'll just wait to hear back. But
Eagle's the state of Michigan.
Right.
The department
Yes,
that
yep.
oversees this, right?
yeah, the environmental. Yep.
Anything else? Well, next on our agenda, we are going to discuss approval of the sludge pumps. So that'll be next on our agenda. Before you leave, I do have just one question. That we did budget the painting issue, $20,000, and I know we were up to the plant when we did the video. Has there been any discussion on that further about using the painter to do the exterior of the front of the building?
Yeah, after we had left the plant, Katie had contacted, I think we only received 1 bid for that. And it was bid through solicitation, not through advertisement, but we're having a hard time finding vendors that were willing to work at a wastewater treatment plant, and also the availability of labor right now is not easy. So she did speak with the one vendor, and we did have a price for some painting to be done at the plant. I think it was right around $30,000. 20 of that was just for the biologics room, for the painting of that. And I know that we had talked about that not being a priority, and that the exterior of the building and the interior functional portions of the plant are more of a focus. So they were going to revise their bid and go back to the plant with Katie this week to take a look at that floor area.
So that is being worked
That's
on.
in process, yep.
Since the overgrown shrubbery at the front of the plant along West River Road were removed, it shows the front metal panels in the
Yep.
front of the building are in very
Yeah.
poor condition. So that should be our focus, to improve the appearance of that now. And just so anybody that's wondering about painting, we have a huge amount of pipes within the buildings. Those pipes need to be maintained and painted from corrosive effects. And then when you run a plant like that, other areas, the concrete steps and floors and partial walls get splattered. And I know you're doing a job to clean them up, but we wanted to paint some of those too. So that's what that's all about. So, well, thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Any other questions of Ryan, Les, or Phil?
Well, just one question was, in the video, was that the new discharge chute for the Duperon that was in the
It was in
video?
the background there.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
so that's the new one,
Exactly.
and it's working fine.
Well, it looks like the rags are halfway up, so it's already made that first turn.
Okay,
So it looks like it's moving, so it's good.
good.
So I hope, it's going to be great.
How long does that chute take to give birth? I mean, is that-
Maybe a month.
Oh, we won't fully know until about a month has passed that it has a
It's
complete.
actually
yeah.
pushed them through
But it looks like it is, so
far.
so far.
You check it
so
every
good.
day, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Okay, if there are no other questions for Ryan, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
And we'll move on. So the first action item on our agenda, I'll just read it. It's a proposed motion pending approval by the Grosse Ile Township Board. The Grosse Ile DPS Commission recommends the purchase of both primary and secondary sludge pumps at the Grosse Ile wastewater treatment plant through the sole source provider, Kennedy Industries, at a cost of $108,580. Furthermore, the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby approves the bidding of the installation of the aforementioned pumps through the competitive bidding process. Derek?
Fortunately, Ryan's here, so he can talk a little bit more about it. But as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, the board did go ahead and authorize this purchase last night. As Ryan had mentioned earlier, the sludge pumps, they move the sludge from the final clarifiers to the sludge holding tank. Without these pumps, the effluent that we would release would be compromised. So they provide a very important function to the plant. We had budgeted these. This was part of our capital improvement schedule that we had built into our fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. And from the standpoint of replacing all four at once, there is an economies of scale, factor to this. So we want to do all four of them rather than do two at one time and two at another time.
Well, like so many things at the plant, these are, the estimated life on them is they're 40 years old. And they've been functioning for all these years, so it's time we replace them. So we've discussed this previously.
And we do have a capital improvement schedule for the plant. We review every year. We have a ongoing asset management plan that is in development and has been in development. So these are all planned capital improvements based upon the criticality of the equipment, the condition of the equipment, the longevity of the equipment, the cost, the functionality of how all these factor into the operation of the plant, and when we can take things offline and when we can't. So there's a lot that goes into the planning for these capital improvements. Not to get too far off topic, but Ryan and I were discussing earlier the additional items we have in our capital improvement plan for this upcoming year. So we'll be bringing that before you as well, additional items that were listed in that budget that we have planned for this year at the plant. So this is kind of the second. The primaries was the first, the sludge pump second, and then we have additional work that we'll be bringing before you guys here fairly shortly.
Yep. All right. So are there any questions? I'm going to make the motion that I just read. Is there support for it?
I will second it.
Okay, Schmidtke supported. Are there any other questions any of you have? Dave, Phil, Les? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor of purchasing the primary and secondary sludge pumps at the wastewater treatment plant from Kennedy Industries at a cost of $108,580, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you, Ryan. So with that, you're going to give a report, Derek, on other related items, public works things?
Yeah, we covered a fair number of the projects that we're working on under Ryan's report. There's just a couple of different items that we have that I need to report on to bring you up to speed. Sanitary sewer, John usually provides a report. He's absent this evening. He had a family emergency. But Phase 4 is about 95% complete. They're moving on to Phase 5, as well as doing some cleanup on some of the other phases as far as the TVing and cleaning. We did have one item, one area, and I don't know if I mentioned this at the last DPS meeting, that we're probably going to bring to you guys for an immediate repair or a repair off schedule out of the capital improvement schedule that they found when they were working. It's a fairly small stretch, and I might have mentioned it to you at the last meeting, but
You may have.
yeah, we'll be bringing that forward to you probably at the next meeting to work on that. And that's probably going to come to you in the format of working off another community's lining contract or something like that. So we'll try to make sure that you guys understand exactly how we're going to procure those services. West River Drainage, everything's good to go. We're just waiting on the material delivery, and then we could get moving on that. So that should be any day here. We've talked extensively about the state mandated improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, so Ohio keeps that on our list so that you guys are aware continuously of all the capital improvements that are necessary. The capital improvements the state has requested of us or is required of us that are built into our project list, so that we're aware of what needs to be done. So that's under that basis of design plant improvements. We talked about the Eagle violation notice. We talked about the primary sludge pumps and the primary and secondary sludge pumps, as well as the primary clarifier. So that's in process right now. Ryan covered the NPDES permit application and where that's at. November 1st or November is what he had mentioned. And the last one on there is this roads project. You know, what we want to do with that. I know that's under our discussion items, but if you guys want to discuss it now, we can have that conversation. The chairman and I talked a little bit about that, and we had discussed prioritizing joint sealing and crack sealing with the money that we have available. There's a contract that I believe Riverview has that we could piggyback on, so it wouldn't require us to incur any cost to bid. I think there's just some concern about the quantity of money that we have available and how much paving work we can actually get done with that. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you want to expound on that or not, but.
Well, and if you read the minutes carefully, every one of us the assignment was to, as you drive around the township, if you identified any repairs you felt needed to be made, to bring them back to this meeting. So I'm going to just kind of recall from my standpoint. It turns out that for this fiscal year, this calendar year, after all our other maintenance activities, we figure we have about $80,000 to $90,000 we could put into road improvements. And one of the suggestions discussed was, we have these two small drains on West River Road, the north end of West River Road, the unimproved section of West River Road. And one drain is by Island Estates, and the other, give me a cross street, near Bycroft, in that area. Byramar. Anyway, these are drain improvements, and right now, up at the end of Highland and West River, there's all kinds of big culverts sitting up there, I noticed yesterday, so I assume that's for those drains. But, and as part of the project with regard to roads is, especially, I think that when we put the new culverts in, these are big culverts, 3 and 4 foot, bigger diameter than that. We're going to raise the road in the one case over by Island Estates, and then do about 300 feet in each direction, paving.
Correct.
So we raise the road and pave, so it'll have a nice looking impact. We discussed, should we maybe extend the roads there? Instead of 300 feet, go further. Well, I went up and I asked John to go with me. I looked at it with John Keim, and we discussed it. And then I said, are there other things that you'd like to see done, John? And he said, well, we could always, I made the statement that if we're doing 300 feet at each drain crossing in each direction, that's pretty substantial there. But spending more money there doesn't get us much. It's a mile stretch. And doing another 300 feet doesn't really solve the problem with West River Road. And John is always in favor of crack sealing, joint sealing, to save roads. And we drove right onto Highland Street, both east and west of Meridian, and he said a couple of the other streets in that area, they really need crack sealing. So he said, I'd put the money into joint sealing.
So, Bill,
yep.
Those roads were resident-initiated projects. And when Lorenda was here, she had some money left over, and she went over and did one. That was Dallas. That was a resident-initiated project. She went there and sealed that off. So, yeah, the county's never going to come back. They say, oh, you paved the road, we'll maintain it. They'll never come back. So, yeah, to take care of the stuff that the residents paid for over 20 years, we should do that.
Okay, and that's where my head concluded, Les. But in my driving around, I did notice one thing, Mr. Manager.
Yes.
On Sarah Drive, and again, I'd have to go look at the locations. It's concrete roads. there's two slabs between Lowry and Thorntree, I think it is. I'm not sure that's the correct side street. But there's two slabs within a block area. One is, the stone in that slab is big as my fist, all broken up. And the other one, there's about a 4-inch depression with loose gravel, stone all over it. I think those two slabs should be done because the county's not going to do those. If we could do those two slabs, and then I'm assuming the money left over would be $70,000, but I think those need to be addressed. I mean, they are not in good shape. Now, maybe John could look at it, and I can show those to him. And I don't know how successful we'd be in putting hot patch in those two. Might work, but that's just a temporary fix. But I noticed this was just the other day, two slabs on Sarah Lane, and I think those two are bad. They need to be fixed.
I'm just trying to get a hold of the engineer because at the last meeting, you guys had asked the 90,000 how much more distance that would get us over on West River Road. So I want to get you that answer so that you guys can determine whether or not it would make a significant impact over there as part of that project. So give me like 2 seconds and I can get you that answer. But you know, if there is still an appetite for that.
Well, there isn't in my mind, but you want the information? It's still going to leave 90% of the road, that mile, unfinished.
Okay.
What about you, Dave?
Can't finish it.
Oh, no, you won't. Yeah, it won't even be noticeable, really. If we double the amount of, I don't think it will be.
I can go along with the crack sealing and replacing the slabs.
Well, let's just focus there.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
You guys can handle it from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so we made a decision, right?
Sounds like there's consensus. Yes.
Consensus.
Okay.
Okay. Water loss report?
We're currently at 11.70% through April of 22. So last, I think, meeting, we had the March numbers for you, but April are listed on this water loss report. So that's all I have under my report.
Les, any comments on the water loss?
No, that's great.
I did, speaking of Les, I did talk to the chairman about some of the concerns you had expressed regarding Swan Island. And I did have a conversation with John about that north end. Both he and I were a bit concerned that extending the tap farther south might not alleviate the problem that he's experiencing. Just simply because I don't know that we can move it far enough down the road to have better circulation or less sediment.
Yeah.
The other option you had mentioned was the blow-off, and John had expressed some concern about installing one there and where you would dispose of that water, because if you have, you know, rusty water that you're blowing off into the canal, that wouldn't be permitted. So at that point, you'd have to find a location where you discharge the blow-off water to, and would that pose a flooding issue to any of the residents in that area? So the chairman and I had talked earlier about other options and, you know, maybe increasing the frequency of flushing down there. Give that a try and see if that helps out at all. And then if that doesn't, maybe we can look at something else. But wanted to let you know that it hadn't been forgotten and that we were looking into, you know, what different options existed. So,
Okay.
okay.
In other words, I was thinking, Les, if we flush every 6 months,
Oh, it's
we
gotta
could either
be-
do it quarterly now or
It's gotta do
even
more than that. It's
then
gotta
every-
be monthly.
every monthly or every other month. Just
Yeah, right now we do about every 6 months, so it'd have to be every 2 months.
Yeah, it's bad.
should we try that? Flushing more frequently and see what happens?
Right, because when Jerry contacted me and I went over to his house and he showed me the problem, I called up John and John went there the next day and did it. But it was like 2 to 3 weeks later, the problem's right back.
Well, let's just try flushing more frequency now. You okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm just, I was trying to figure out and scratching my head, how do you alleviate the problem? And I think the only way to alleviate the problem is replace that short piece of pipe.
Okay? Anyway, we're done with
I'm
that?
sorry.
So that's it on items, discussion items. We've already been through them. Next is Chairman's report. I don't have anything to comment on except in the packet near the very end, it was either the last sheet or the sheet before these, there was a letter, and I just wanted to get your okay. And what it is, it's to the residents of Bellevue and Ferry Roads. Now, if you remember, when we talked about the road issue, we talked about specifically inviting some residents to come in where we, with the road program, we proposed to really resurface and make other base improvements in roads that are badly deteriorated. And so at one of the meetings, we proposed inviting residents of Bellevue and Ferry to come in and learn about what our plans would be if the millage is approved. And then at another meeting, we talked about the residents of East River Road being invited in, where there's a number of properties. So I just wanted to get your okay on the format of the letter. There's one word that I had not spelled correct. I put, the last sentence says, again, the meeting will proceed. I originally typed precede and my computer rejected it, but I know why.
Yeah.
Because I had PRECEEDE and only one E there. So
The
it's-
vice chairman came in earlier today to specifically
Oh, you caught that?
to address that.
I went back and I checked
We're watching out
old,
for you.
I checked the old dictionary on correct spelling of precede. Are you okay with the letter?
Yes.
Phil, or Les?
Yes?
Dave? So that'd be the format. Doesn't say much, it just invites people to come in, so. We'll work with the city assessor, and what my thinking on that was is work with the assessor, all occupied residences. This is the area between, in the case of Bellevue and Ferry, between Meridian and East River.
Mhm.
Okay? And
Would you envision that going in the mail or just door to door like we did with the church notices?
I think we have plenty of time, we can mail it.
Okay.
So I proposed that September 13th meeting that we would mail it to
Okay.
them. Okay? I think our schedule on Church Road was a little tighter.
Yes, that's probably true.
So that's all I have. So we'll go around the table for commissioners' reports. David?
The only thing I had is that the new mower was approved by the board last night. And I talked to John Keim, well, earlier that day, and he's very happy. And the second thing I had, and if the commission will allow me, my second comment was that I had a conversation with Mr. Zalesko, Bob Salasco, to send his thanks again, but I see he joined, so maybe he'd like to
Oh,
at least say your thanks.
Sure. I'll let you fellas finish and then I'll come up if you like.
okay, I saw you come in, Bob, but now I forgot you were there, so.
Sorry, I'm
No,
late.
no, I didn't forget our talk, Bob.
All right, we'll get back to you. Phil, you have anything?
Nothing further.
Les?
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're thinking about trying to take care of Swan Island. Like I say, we get the squeaky wheel, that's the one that always gets the grease. And I know that John took care of a couple of places we had when he wanted to go out for bid on it and everything. And I think this is a simple one, a no-brainer. Otherwise than that, very good job on the dust bond. That seemed to be like, it looks like I got an asphalt road. And I don't know if I heard any complaints.
Just on application day, there were some people that drove through the material and had it on their vehicles, and but that was pretty short-lived. I think that the whole calcium chloride dust bond application schedule that we did, I think that might end up working out okay. We'll see how long the dust bond lasts us. Hopefully through the balance of the summer. It has been pretty dry. So hopefully it lasts, but, so we'll see. We'll reevaluate come September, October, how that all worked out. But yeah, it seems like it's working fantastic right now, so.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, that's a good segue. Bob Zelasco, you're welcome to come up to the podium. Nice to see you.
Good to see you fellas. I had a couple things going on. I had some phone calls coming in I had to wait for, but I did watch on TV, and very nice presentation on the waste treatment. I saw your film. I don't think people have ever even seen the two clarifiers, so it was really informational. You are going to be airing that throughout a couple times through the day, so that people can see it on different shifts through the night and through the daytime.
It'll run between all the meetings that we provide, so yeah, it should be on
Excellent.
there a lot. Yep.
Yeah, those are so important. People do watch those. The dust bond, fantastic, night and day difference between that and the calcium chloride. With regard to the, I don't want to use the word complaint, but the comments on how it's a little messy when it's put down. Yes, it is. It takes maybe a couple hours to really soak in, but the return on the investment for months and months of not sucking dust is well worth it. And for what it's worth, the dust bond doesn't really hurt my car. I can wash it off. We all know what salt does to metal, so I think the dust bond brings with it some more advantage there. And it also strengthens the road, and as Les said, it's like we got asphalt. It's a dual purpose. It does a great job, and I, for one of the many people who live on dirt roads, are very thankful again for you guys for putting that down. I caught Derek's chart. I'd like to get a copy of that if I could on the millage. That is the most explicit, well put together chart on millages that I have seen.
You want the one on the roads?
No, he put one out. It had the fire, it had the proposed millages and everything. Yeah,
That's in this one.
I have an extra copy.
that is great. That might be something else that it would have been nice to add that to your information thing. That's very.
We're going to do that.
And I'm sure, I'm looking
Do that,
forward,
yeah.
I'm going to try and make your meeting on the 20th, and I would encourage others to come and try and make it too.
Yeah, so there's actually two charts floating around. The first one's for the wastewater treatment, and then the one you're referencing is in the roads millage.
And this is an extra
publication.
copy. It's here for you.
Oh, thank you.
That's the combined chart.
Okay,
That has them both in it.
but it was a very good meeting. You fellows presented a lot of information. Again, thank you for the dust control, and thank you for the great job that you're doing.
Thanks,
Hope
Bob.
to see you on the 20th.
Appreciate it.
Here.
Look for, here, this is for you. Please take it.
Thank you. I probably got the same thing here, chart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, with that.
Hey, Bill,
yes.
one thing I didn't mention, I forgot about, the bridge. Are we getting any kind of a report back on the bridge? I heard David last night in a meeting mention something about what they were doing. But, are we gonna get a report back from them and find out what they did?
So the township contracted with an outside engineering company to review all the reports that are available and report back to the township with basically a summary. That's scheduled to be received by the township probably the end of July, maybe the beginning of August. So if that's what you're referring to, that's what we were talking about last night.
Okay, yeah. Just so they were kept up to date, because shutting that bridge down like they did for 2 years was just devastating.
Yeah, and I think that the township board as a whole, recognizes the impact, that has on the residents. So, to get an independent assessment of what it all means, the current reports and past reports, that's why they brought this company in. So we're just waiting on getting that information from them. They have a time period of analysis that they have to do with the information they were able to obtain.
Okay, good question, Les. Thank you. If there's no other business before the commission tonight, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for watching.